Hi, my name is Andrew Ledbetter, and I'm a professor at the Department of Communication Studies at Texas Christian University. And today I'm talking to Dr. Ascan Koerner, who is professor and associate dean for undergraduate education at the University of Minnesota. And he is also one of the creators of family communication patterns theory. So I guess as we start, I was curious, how did you become interested in studying family communication and also specifically family communication patterns theory?
Hello, Andrew. Thank you for inviting me for this conversation. I'm looking forward to this as well. And love the book. I've used it in my own introductory course. So very happy to be here and be able to share my experiences and my theorizing about family communication. Well, I became interested in family communications pattern theory and family communication in general, really as coming as an immigrant student to the United States. And then when you encounter communication and you encounter really how different people are and the different assumptions they make and the different procedures they have and the different habits they have in communication, it really raises the question, where does this all come from? So where does culture originate? Is this something in the air, in the water, or more likely is this something that you experience and that you learn while you grow up? So the family is sort of a natural place where folks really become socialized into certain communication behaviors and habits. And so I was really, really interested in investigating that further in my own research and graduate work.
I was wondering if we could talk for a moment about conversation and conformity orientation, because those are very central in the theory, those two orientations. And then, of course, those give rise to the four family types. Could you talk about that for a moment? Just what are those orientations and how do they lead to those four family types?
Right. So these two orientations, conversation orientation and conformity orientation, are really communication practices that are sort of fundamental to how families communicate. So the concern about establishing a shared social reality is really foundational for family communication and really all family interaction. And then there's really two processes by which families can accomplish that. The one process is what we call conversation orientation, because it really stresses conversation. It stresses communicating back and forth between all family members, primarily between parents and children, to really understand what do things mean and how do you feel about it? What is your experience? What are your thoughts and your beliefs surrounding this issue? And then conversely, what are mine and my feelings and my beliefs and my perception? And so it's a really collaborative process by which we co-discover and co-define the world around us. So that's one process that families habitually use. The other process is a little bit more efficient. It's a process where you call upon an authority to define to you what does something mean. And in a family context, it's usually the parents, but we call that authority orientation or conformity orientation for that reason, because it's really about a agreement, but based on somebody's authority that has the chance to define the terms for the family. So it's not exploratory as much and doesn't involve everybody. It's not communication focused as much. It's very much somebody tells me what it all means. So these are two processes. They're foundational. All families use all some of the time, but families have sort of preferences for one or the other. Some families prefer the conversation orientation and much more habitually engage in conversation around issues when they're trying to establish shared meaning. Other ones habitually prefer conformity orientation.
Could you explain the four different family types?
Yeah, so the four family types really result from the two underlying dimensions, from a sort of dimensional cross of these conversation orientation and conformity orientation. So families that are high in conversation orientation and also high in conformity orientation, we call them consensual families. So they use both of these strategies to achieve a shared social reality habitually, and they have sort of a very coherent and very cohesive family type as a result. Families that are high in conversation orientation and low in conformity orientation, we call pluralistic families. They are sort of more characterized by a plurality of opinions. There's a lot of free-flowing ideas, but not necessarily a strong pressure to agree on something or to come to some sort of consensus or even agreement. The families that are low in conversation orientation but high in conformity orientation, we call protective families. And that's the sort of the family type that is very sort of dominated by the parents, or maybe a particular parent that really sort of lays out the rules for the family, and everybody is expected to fall in line, so to speak, and adhere to sort of what that dominant parent or the dominant parents say about the world. And then the fourth family type is the families that are low in both conversation orientation and conformity orientation. We call them the laissez-faire family type. And those are families that neither communicate a whole lot with one another, nor do they necessarily come to a lot of agreement about things. And often these children feel somewhat neglected by their parents.